What are y'all? This DJ Illmatic back once again, coming at you live and direct, straight from my crib, USA. Daily Operation, episode 18. Here to chop it up with you about all the goings on in the gaming world today. Let your relaxation. I spent the majority of my time, the vast majority of my time this week on The Witcher 3. Absolutely love this game. I am completely addicted to this game. I had to break myself away from it to record the podcast for this week. I only spent a little bit of time playing NBA 2K this week, but even when the time I spent playing NBA 2K, I was thinking about I really want to get back on The Witcher. An absolutely amazing game. Graphically, it's beautiful. There are some frame rate dips here and there, but nothing that really detracts from the game for me. Also really love the sound, the voice acting. Actually, the only issue I have with the voice acting is the main protagonist, Geralt. I do not like his voice. It's too monotone. He pretty much answers every conversation is that same raspy, solid snake anti-hero type of voice, deep and gruffy, and there's just no vocal inflection in terms of everything's just monotone, which bothers me. But even that, I mean, is still better than most video games, so it's not a huge complaint. What The Witcher does better than pretty much any other RPG I've dealt with, and why I'm so hooked on this game, is they've incorporated so many of the side stories or the side quests into the main quest itself. And so, of course, the main quest, you make decisions throughout, but oftentimes in these open world RPGs, these side quests are just kind of things you do that are absolutely completely separated from the main quest line, and they have no impact on the world themselves other than the quest that you're doing. But once that quest is over, once that quest is fulfilled, your choices in those quests really have no impact on the rest of the game. The Witcher actually incorporates things you do within the world in these side quests into the main quest as well. And so when you make a decision 2 hours in, you could see that decision come back and affect you 20 or more hours in, which really keeps you enthralled and really interested in the side story or the side quests. A lot of times these side quests just seem like filler, but here it really seems like it's part of the entire world. Like you're not just doing these side quests to check off a box, that you're actually making decisions that are going to affect the entire world. Now, I'm not sure, I can't say for a fact, but I would assume that not every side quest is like that. There are side quests that are just kind of one-offs and don't really affect the world. But the fact that there are some side quests that do affect so much of the world, it really makes every decision you make in these side quests seem that much more important, and it keeps you that much more interested and engaged in the side quests themselves. Another thing The Witcher does that I really like is anytime you load the game back up, it basically gives you on the previous episode type thing you see on TV, where it basically tells you where you're at in the main storyline portion of the game. I really like this, and I really think it's a great idea, and I hope a lot of other RPGs follow this idea, because one of the problems I have with RPGs, these open world RPGs, is I often get so sidetracked by doing all these side missions and side quests and various other things that by the time I come around to doing a main story mission, I may do a main story mission to start off with, or do one or two, and then I'll spend 5 to 10 hours doing a side mission or looking for a treasure, and then I'll come back and do another main story mission, then wander off and explore for another few hours. And so by jumping back and forth all the time, I often lose track of what the actual main storyline is about. I'm not as engaged with the main story because I've spent so much time separated from it that I kind of forget what I was doing in the first place. And so this basic recap when you load in the game, I think, is a really good idea, because even when I'm off exploring or looking for treasure or looking for armor or doing these side quests, I still have an idea of what's going on in the main story. So when I revisit that, I'm completely caught up, and I'm engaged still with this main storyline. But it's an absolutely amazing game. I encourage everyone to run out and play The Witcher. One of, if not the best next gen or current gen game we've had so far. Definitely a masterpiece. Definitely recommend this for any gamer out there. All right, next up on the show, we have Buck 'em Down. This is a segment of the show. We buck down the foolishness and the ignorance in the gaming world today. And we're going to go all in with The Witcher this week. We're going to have a Witcher blowout. And so I'm going to deal with some issues that I've heard come up in regards to The Witcher. Now, one of the complaints I've heard about The Witcher is that it's not really an open world RPG. And that criticism comes from some people who say that because you have to load into certain areas, it's not truly open world. Open world means that once you load into the world, you can go from one end of the map to the other without loading. And so because you have to load into different regions of The Witcher, it's not really an open world. This, to me, is just gamers doing what, unfortunately, gamers seem to do best nowadays, and that's complain. It is absolutely an open world game. The main area of the game, that open world map, once you load into that map is bigger than most open world games in its entirety. And you still have 2 or 3 other locations you can load in as well. And I don't really necessarily think it's the developer trying to give the illusion that it's open world or trying to trick the gamer into thinking it's something it's not. I look at it more of, and the same thing for Dragon Age. This is one of the criticisms of Dragon Age, that it wasn't truly open world. I look at this as them trying to add a greater scope to the game. And so, for instance, when you look at Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, yes, these were huge open world maps, and you could go from one end of the map to the other. And not to take anything away from these games, but the map basically encompassed Fallout 3 was Washington, D.C. and the surrounding area. New Vegas, of course, was Vegas and the surrounding area. And so it loses that scope, whereas in a game like The Witcher, you still have these huge open world maps, but by loading into different regions, it kind of expands the scope of the game. It makes you feel like the world is much larger. And so for me, the example, to give a Fallout reference, that would be like if Fallout 4 took place in Boston and DC and New York, and you load it into those various regions. That way it increased the scope of the game. That's what I see developers doing. That's what I think they're trying to pull off by having these different regions you go to, load into, and then do the open world. But the map itself, when you go in, is massive. So this criticism is really just ignorant at this point. I'm not really sure why, other than just to complain, I suppose. Another problem I've heard people cry about or complain about with The Witcher is that it doesn't look as good as the original gameplay trailers that were shown. And this is often a criticism of games. Many people often complain that this game doesn't look as good as it did when you announced it at E3 or when you announced it here or there. And oftentimes that's true. And in the Witcher's case, that is true as well. Now, the developer, CD Projekt Red, said they had to optimize the game to run on the current gen consoles as well as the PC, so it didn't look as good. But everyone's throwing down the term, well, they downgraded the game. Now, what people have to remember, and what gamers often forget, is that they complain they've been misled because the original trailer didn't match up to the actual game itself. But what people have to remember is that all of these things, whether it's a screenshot, whether it's a gameplay video, whether it's a preview, all of these things are part of the marketing campaign for a game. Understand that first and foremost, video games are a business. Publishers and developers are in this to make money. Publishers definitely more so than developers, but even developers, I don't care how much they love making games, and don't take anything away from them. You really have to love making video games to do it, because understand they work tremendous hours, and then they're creating a product. During the whole time they're creating this product, the people they're creating it for, the gamers, demand that the game have this and demand the game have that. And once the end product is released, even if they've met all these demands, the developer of the game itself is still criticized incessantly, no matter what they've created. So you don't have a very appreciative audience that you're creating these things for. So you have to have a genuine love for creating video games. So I'm not taking that away from them. But at the end of the day, these people have families to feed. They have bills to pay. And so it comes down to making money. No matter how much they love making games, if they weren't getting paid to do it, they'd be doing something else. Okay? And so at the end of the day, this is a business. And all of these things, gameplay trailers, this is part of the business. This is part of marketing. This is part of their plan to sell you their product. And so it's no different than commercials you see on TV. All those fast food commercials you see on TV, the food in the commercial looks, or the food you get in the restaurant, the fast food restaurant, never looks as good as it does in the commercial. Now, if you read the fine print in the commercial, it says enlarged to show texture. That's why it never looks the same. It's the same thing with these car commercials. When you watch a car commercial, they always show you the luxury model. However, at the end of the commercial, when they show you the price, they always show you the model of the price of the base model. Okay, and so this is what commercials, this is what advertising does. It tries to get us to buy their product, and so of course they may fudge the details. And so video games are no different. A video game, when they want to show off what a game looks like and really impress people, they're going to show off their game on a high-end PC, which most of us do not own. I for one do not. And so the game they show me will never look as good on my PS4 or my Xbox One. And I know that going in. I understand that they're trying to market this. They're trying to sell me on something. And that's not to take anything away from The Witcher, because it is a beautiful game. And so even if it doesn't look as good as it did in the release trailer, I'm okay with that. It was never going to look as good as they wanted it to, because I don't have a high-end PC. Now, if you have a high-end PC and they did have to downgrade it so it would run on, or I should say optimize, so it would run on the PS4 and Xbox One. So maybe you feel a little slighted. But at the end of the day, as gamers, we have to remember that these people are in a business to make money. And so we always have to remember that all of these things, gameplay, trailers, screen, all of this stuff is marketing. It is to sell us a product, and quit buying in wholesale to these marketing things. When you get fooled by advertising, you're the fool, not the advertiser. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're trying to sell you a product. And so if you buy into that marketing without asking any questions, or if you believe them 100%, well, that's on you for being the fool. They're going to do what they need to do to sell the product. And I don't knock them for that. In a perfect world, everyone would be straight up 100% honest across the board, but that's not how advertising works. That's not how marketing works. I understand they have to make their money. They're going to do what they do. But like I said, I don't want that, and that detracts from the game itself, because even though it might not look as good as the original gameplay trailer, The Witcher 3 is still a beautiful game. There's not many games out there that look better than it. And so to me, it's not an issue. And if after being given such an amazing game and all the amazing things it does that I've talked about earlier on, all those great things it does, if the only thing you have to focus on is the fact that it doesn't look as good as you thought it was, then you need to find a new hobby, because that's not what gaming is about. Everything you would want as a gamer is there. It has a great story, engaging gameplay, beautiful, wonderful, very realized world. And so everything you could ever want as a gamer is there. And if you just want to complain about it's not shiny or pretty enough, well, then that's on you. You're really missing out on a great experience with The Witcher. All right, that's all the time we got for this week's episode of Daily Operation. It's been DJ Illmatic, Daily Operation, episode 18. Once again, check me out at 8bitchimp.com. Hit us up for all that gaming flavor you savor, 8bitchimp.com. Also, check out my podcast on iTunes if you just want to get the audio. Search 8bitchimp.com at iTunes and you'll find Daily Operation. Also, check me out on YouTube, DJ_Illmatic. Like my videos, subscribe to my channel. Hit me up on Twitch, DJ_Illmatic as well. And also hit me up on Twitter, DJ Illmatic23, all together, no underscore, no space. Get at me at one or all three of those joints, and I will get back to you. Once again, fat shout out to my Organized Gamers family, and fat shout out to everybody out there showing love on these Daily Operation podcasts. It's been DJ Illmatic, Daily Operation. We out, y'all. One.